Order. This is the meeting of the Winthrop Town Council, January 19th, 2016. This meeting is being televised and recorded and will be played occasionally on WCAT. You should take the roll call.
Sure. Council Ingman. Present. Council Calla. Present. Council Sanford.
Here.
Council Boncory.
Here.
Council Barone.
Here.
Council Boyajin.
Here.
Council Garbento.
Yep.
Vice President Lettieri.
Here.
President Disco.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. The minutes from the January 5th meeting have been circulated.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next on the agenda, a few appointments that I want to make. One of them is for the Scholarship Committee. Matt Serino, our athletic director, has expressed an interest in serving on that committee. I think he'd be an appropriate member of that committee, given his role in the school. And so I'd like a motion to...
Motion to approve the appointment.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The second appointment, there are two appointments to the School Building Committee. These are a little bit of housekeeping. The first is our CFO, Michael Perez. I'd like to nominate him to serve on the School Building Committee. Could I have a motion? Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And second, on the School Building Committee, there is currently no representative from the school committee. So I'd like to nominate Ron Vecchia to serve on that committee.
Motion.
Motion. Second? Question?
Which is fine, I have no problem with Ron. Now, is he, because Gary was the representative. Gary is now still on the committee. So are we adding another position?
We are adding. Gary's position is an add to that. Gary wanted to stay on that after his term on the school committee expired. But traditionally, there is a member of the school committee serving on that. And that was discussed at the school committee meeting last Monday night. And Chairman Sullivan asked that Ron Vecchia be appointed. So, could I have a motion on that?
We already have.
Oh, we do.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Seconded.
You Phil seconded.
Okay, good. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right, great. Okay, now we have a series of public hearings. There are 10 or 11 of them, actually. And these come from other meetings that happened in the month of December with the end of the year and the new council being sworn in, new committees being put together. And some of these have built up since the middle of December. So we're going to go through each one of these separately. And the first one is a public hearing. Let me open the public hearing first. And this first one is to transfer $250,000 to fund the additional water main work for contract 4. This was discussed at the Finance Committee this evening. I don't know if there are any comments or questions. I'm sorry. Does anybody in the public want to be heard in favor of the motion? Hearing none. Anybody on the council?
Motion to close that hearing and go into the next one?
Second. Okay, then the hearing is closed. The second hearing is a $250,000 transfer for matching funds grant contribution to the Belle Isle Marine Ecological Park. We've already received a grant, I think, $950,000. This represents the town's portion of that, not of the $950,000 in addition to the $950,000. Are there anyone from the audience care to weigh in? Okay, nothing. Any councilors?
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm going to say, the Finance Committee met earlier and on all these items, and Pat made a favorable recommendation for all these items we're going to hear in hearings tonight.
Okay.
A motion to close the public hearing?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The hearing is closed. The third hearing is transfer $150,000 to purchase a new DPW salter truck. Any motions, any comments from the audience?
On the salter truck?
On the salter truck?
Yeah, it's a replacement of a 1993 Salter. So will be ordered. It's a, we won't see it this year, unfortunately, this winter, but we will have it for next winter, and we'll get the salter body sooner than later to utilize in one of our current dump trucks. So, very needed item.
Town manager?
Yes, and all of the equipment purchases that are before you this evening have been part of our capital plan process, and these are ones that have been held over for funding and approved through the budget process of last year.
Any other comments from councilors?
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That public hearing is closed. The next one is a transfer of $40,000 to purchase a new DPW utility truck. Are there any comments from the audience?
Again, this is a very needed piece of equipment, replacing a 1997 unit currently in the fleet, which will be surplus.
Any comments from council?
Motion to close that hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The hearing is closed. Transfer, the next hearing is to transfer $36,000 to purchase a new police cruiser. Anything from the audience?
Sure, thank you. Again, this is part of the capital plan that we try to rotate at least one cruiser a year through the system. The importance of that is to keep everything under warranty, to reduce the expenses that we have currently on this current one, is the 9.3 car. It's about 5 years old, and it's eaten up some expenses this year especially. So our plan is, as we get new cruisers also, is to feed the auxiliaries needed replacements for their cruisers. So that's what the plan is, to step down the vehicles so they have vehicles as well.
Good. Thank you. Any other comments from the councilors? None?
Okay. Motion to close that public hearing?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The next hearing is for a transfer of $36,000 for the purchase of a new police, I just did that one. Excuse me, to transfer $36,000 for, not two, transfer $36,000 to fund a school capital maintenance program. Are there any comments from the audience on that?
Mr. President?
There's an amendment, okay.
We met earlier and Superintendent Messere asked us to adjust that amount to $47,175, as he now has a solid price on the proposal.
So,
We'll address that when the time comes.
the amount is now $47,000 or $42,000?
It's actually, I have it in front of me, $47,175.
About $47,175.
So I'll make that amendment when we
Okay.
have the item.
All right. This has been amended. We need a second on the amendment.
We'll have to do that.
No,
New business.
we'll do it after.
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
couple business.
Okay, great. Any other comments? Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next item is a $35,000 transfer for the purchase of, a DPW sidewalk, Bobcat, skid steer.
Skid steer.
I think
Skid
that's
steer
the-
loader.
Comment from the,
Yep, so this is for snow clearing, primarily for snow clearing on the sidewalks, a unit that's small enough that we can get between utility poles and fences and hydrants and fences. Also will be used throughout the year for road work and such.
okay. Any comments from the council?
Motion to close the public hearing on the Bobcat?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next public hearing is to transfer $25,000 to fund the feasibility study citing the new firehouse. And are there any comments from the audience? None? Any
Comment from the council.
From the council?
I know we've been looking at this for many years, at least since the 80s that I know of, and I think it's something that we need as a town, and it's a long time coming. I approve of this. Thank you.
I know Chief Flanagan couldn't be here tonight, but he's always spoken very highly and in need of this and this building to replace some aging equipment in his building, the windows, the roof, the floors. So any consideration I know he will appreciate, and I'm sure he'll be sorry he missed this.
He actually was in attendance at the Finance Committee, and we talked about it in the same vein that you're describing, and it's been a long time. He had studies with him from the 80s and the 90s, and so I think it's well worth it. Any other comments from the council?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second to last public hearing is the transfer of $25,000 to fund the town record scanning project. Are there any comments from the audience?
This is a continuation of a program that we've adopted to digitize our vital and historical records. And we make an annual commitment to this process. Now we have enough resources to actually, I think Carla brought in, the clerk, brought in a nice example to one of our meetings not too long ago of what this project will be producing. This is very valuable digitized records.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
The record scanning.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last public hearing is to transfer $25,000 to match the FY16 Green Infrastructure Grant for Coughlin Park feasibility study. Are there any comments from the audience?
Yes, we received a grant for $75,000 from Coastal Zone Management to study the possibility of a soft solution to the beach erosion that's occurring on the west side of the bay along Coughlin Park. And this is our match necessary to complete this to $100,000 of study value, so we can figure out what to do and how to save that park and that whole shoreline from further erosion.
Any comments from the council? Any questions? If not,
Motion to close the public hearing on Coughlin Park?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good. Well, that does it for the public hearings. The next part of the meeting is public comment. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none. Correspondence. I do not have any correspondence to present this evening, so we'll go to the next section, which is committee reports. The first committee to report is the Economic Development Committee. There was a meeting on January 13th. It was actually an excellent meeting. And Councilor Sanford, do you want to discuss something?
Yeah, we met here in the Harvey Room. The original schedule, the room was upstairs in room 2. It was unoccupied. We put signs up and made sure everyone knew we were down here. In attendance was Councilor Eggman, myself. Councilor Lettieri could not make it due to a scheduling conflict. We discussed basically the center business district and things that we've been thinking about over the past probably 5, 10, 15, 20 years at times. We talked about some funding that was just received for $50,000 for a master plan and to overlook both the center business district as well as talk about possible reuse of the existing, the new high school or the former the high school now, I'm sorry, / middle school. Joe D. presented an overview of some of the things we've considered or could be considered. Again, with that whole process of the center as well as the middle school, possibly being part of that. And again, rest assured that, this is the very beginning of a long process, as we talked about. Some of the councils had some questions, some could not make it to that particular meeting. I think there'll be some discussion later on. But this is the very beginning of a long process, which the public and neighbors will be included going forward. And then we adjourned at 9:15. We'll be meeting again within the next 30 days. Respectfully submitted.
I would just say, too, that I attended that meeting. That was an excellent meeting. It actually helped me understand what has gone on to date with respect to planning, and filled in a lot of questions, gaps that I had. And I think that it would probably be a good idea for the council to hear that presentation. I think it would really help answer questions and make everybody be on the same page with respect to what has happened so far town-wide, but particularly with the center and the middle school. So I would recommend that we have that at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And Council Brown was also in attendance at that meeting. Just want to make sure we let everyone know.
Okay. Thank you. The Finance Committee met this evening. We just went through the public hearings. I don't know if there are any other comments from the Finance Committee?
Yes, we met on all the items that we just had the public hearings about, and also two additional items, which was $20,000 transfer to fund the town's annual tree planting program, excuse me, and $20,000 to fund a feasibility study for the inner harbor dredging. And those were all moved forward with positive recommendations.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the town manager's report.
Good evening. Well, weather is upon us, isn't it? Feels like almost suddenly, right? And I know we had a little bit of fits and starts, but all in all, fared it pretty well. You know, by and large, the community responded to our snow ban over the weekend and our efforts to clean up. And with a new storm potentially on the horizon, I thought it was appropriate for us to have Steve Cowell just give a little, maybe a public service announcement, if you will, on expectations about parking and when the bans go into effect, and just give everybody a little bit of an overview of the process and how you would confer with the chief and whatnot, and the decision making that goes into that.
I just, for everybody watching the meeting, I do want to remind everybody that there is a town ordinance for snow ban is actually in effect from December 15th all the way to April 15th each year. So everything that we do with the blue lights and the parking ban is a courtesy. So anytime that there's an impending snowstorm, speech to 3 inches or potential for 3 inches of snow, everybody needs to expect that a parking ban will be put into effect. We can't plow the roads. 3 inches or more we need to plow. We can't plow the roads with cars on the roadways. That said, I do meet with for each storm, I confer with Chief Delahanty, Chief Flanagan. We discuss the weather that's upon us, the forecasts, and ultimately, I'm the one that initiates when the parking ban will be put into effect. But if you see the blue lights come on, we ask that you go to WCAT, you check the manager's blog, check the town website for the actual time that parking ban will be implemented. But the blue lights are again a courtesy warning that a parking ban will be most likely put into effect for the upcoming storm. This past storm was a little bit tricky. They spoke to 1 to 2 inches. It changed to 2 to 3 inches. So I did implement a parking ban. I do feel that it was the right decision. We did have to put the plows out eventually. We tried to fight it with salt, but we did eventually put the plows out. So again, the blue lights are a warning to check those sources. Again, the manager's blog, WCAT, the town website, police Facebook, for the actual times that the parking ban will be implemented.
I would add, and if the chief wants to add anything, that people may have not experienced a code red call this time. And I know after last year, we sort of got used to that as a convenience, hearing Chief Flanagan's voice tell us to get out of our homes and pick up, get our cars parked. And you know what? We have to be careful when we deploy the code red. That's only deployed when it is really necessary, okay? Not on the lighter storms, but on storms that have a magnitude of, several 18 inches, several feet, and really pose a serious concern. So I hope that people understand that we don't issue a code red unless it's absolutely necessary. And so it's important that we be mindful of the usual customary practices that we ought to have already well understood when it's wintertime. If you got your car out there, you got to think about it and get it moved. If there's 3 inches or more coming, it's your burden to get out there and move it. We do have on our websites where you can take your car to. So go on the town website, and you can tap onto the appropriate link, and it'll show you every place in town where you can relocate your vehicle. But we're not going to be sending out code reds every in sight of every flake of snow.
I hope we're not sending one out for this Saturday.
We'll take a measure of it, and we'll decide, and the chiefs will get together and determine if there's a real emergency
Looks
or
like,
not.
yeah, that's
Just, just on speaking of this weekend, early reports, and it's really early here, as trending south, myself and Chief Flanagan got the updates at 6:45 and met, so we'll keep an eye on that with Steve, who gets independent information as well from the National Weather Bureau. But also, once they do relocate their cars, it is their obligation, once it stops snowing, to move those cars off of those parking areas so we can clean up those streets as well. So I just wanted to put out there that, they have a continuing obligation once they do use the roadways that we do allow parking on to remove those cars at the end of the storm.
I just wanted to say, my husband and I had been out that night, the night of the storm, the snow, and when we left, there was no snow at all. And then by the time we came home, the blue lights were flashing, and I mean, that's clearly an indication that you need to, make sure to check to see that you have to get your car off the street. I mean, it clearly is a great reminder. And like you said, and also just the mere fact, if it's 3 inches or more, people should just automatically know that. That's really a good point.
Yes. Some folks noticed that we went light on enforcement this time around, and we did. We know it's the first snow event, and we didn't want to just jump to issuing tickets in every instance. We did issue some, but not uniformly. But I have the chief here to report going forward what our standard of practice will be.
I think every year, the first storm, we try to cooperate with the public and use it as a reminder that future storms, your cars will be tagged and towed. This first storm was light enough, people cooperated enough that we didn't have to tow any cars. It's our goal not to tow any cars. It's our goal never to give a ticket, but just to get their cooperation. But we do have to get those streets wide enough that the town is not liable for cars that are struck by plows, and also for emergency apparatus to get down here during emergencies. So we appreciate their cooperation. We expect their cooperation in future storms, but we will go into a strict compliance program in future storms.
Okay. Continuing on then.
Continue on.
All right. I just wanted to let you know that we've now revamped our manager's blog with a little bit of a fancier look to it, to change it up a bit, and to give people some information about snow standards and whatnot, and also some information. But I'm pleased to have you see that we're trying to always continually reinvent ourselves to make ourselves appear a little bit more with the times, as it were, in terms of how we get information out to the community. And each week, something of this nature will go out on behalf of the town. So if anyone has something that's worthy of notice in this bulletin, please let me know and send something to my office, and we'll get it out on the blog. We now have 7,500 recipients of this blog every week, and so it's become fast a pretty good vehicle to get the word out, as they say. So, again, it's there for the council and for town departments to, issue any kinds of informational items that they have, but also, something of if anyone in the public service aspect needs notice of an event of some kind, a sporting event or a charitable event or something that the town should be aware of, feel free to make us aware of it, and we'll do our best to get it on the blog. I met with the superintendent and principal of the Northeast Metropolitan Vocational School last week with a number of town officials, and we had a tremendous time, not the least of which was the wonderful meal they served us for lunch. They have a great commissary there, and the students all prepare the food, and it was just a fabulous experience. 65 students from Winthrop attend this school, and they're in desperate need of a new school as well. You could see it. It's very obvious that it's time for that that school to also consider a change in their building. But we re-engaged with them on a number of areas. The chief reason we went there was to reach a verbal, at this point, agreement. There'll be documents exchanged in the next few weeks to have the students at the vocational school build and construct the field house associated with the Miller Field project. So that's an enormous savings to the community of that labor expense. And they can do it soup to nuts, the whole thing. Every aspect of that building can be built. All we'd have to do is supply the materials and the permits and oversight of the project. So it's a great opportunity for the students to do something very constructive, to give back to the member communities, and for us to be the recipient of a little extra help when we need it. So I'm excited about the prospects of them. And that would be, if all the timing works, it would be sometime next spring, that if assuming that we get an official go-ahead by the town to do the project, that they would schedule it for next spring. So all in all, it's a great meeting. And that school can also provide a number of new assistance to the town, such as printing, some digital work for us, some creative arts work, a variety of things that we don't tap into, and that other communities use them for. So sign making and the like. Excuse me. So we're going to explore a lot of other opportunities that we can avail ourselves of from the school at very, very low cost. As mentioned, we received an Urban Agenda grant for $50,000 to plan and develop a master plan for the center and a reuse plan for the schools, the high school, middle school that we all get mixed up on. But that's a big deal for us. Only 16 communities received grants, 54 applicants, and we got one of them. And to the credit of my staff, Joe and Tangi, who worked on the grant, and to everyone that's involved in putting thoughtful themes and providing data and providing the backup necessary to be a successful applicant. Really, a lot went into that. I want to thank the Chamber for their participation in that grant. We had to partner with them, and they had to provide us with information. And so, that really helps us, I think, launch a process now that we can engage in over the next 9 months that will encourage not only public participation, but really bring in the resources that we need, the talent bench, of professional expertise to really optimize what we have as a center and what the plans call for, and to help us discuss it, as a community with real, planning assistance and the like. And we have also lined up resources from MAPC as well as Mass Development, who brings in a real depth of financial expertise to commercial and real estate development that'll be part of that partnership. So it is the sort of the gas money for us to begin a process that I think will engage this community fully, this council fully, its attention to the planning board to be engaged in fully, to really bring to life what we've been talking about for a long time, but we've wanted to see happen with the hope of something happening there, and that's not going to be. The more we can articulate what we desire to see, the more likely it'll occur. The more likely the confidence will be there for a variety of developers to come in and say, you know what, I like this piece, that's not for me, but I can do this over here, whatnot. I'm glad you told us what you were looking for. That gives them confidence that there's a clear and precise, character and design standard that they're shooting for, that there's process that they can follow that's clear and won't be sort of tied up in knots from an administrative standpoint. All those things get teased out and a clearer path begins to form when we have a plan that we all agree on and what we should see in the center. So this is what this process will engage the community in deep and thoughtful comments and input on what we should do at the center. So I'm very excited about this. The ferry update, the ferry's been put away for the next few weeks. It's winter. We won't be sailing the boat. We are doing some tune-ups to some tweakings for the boat to get it absolutely the way we need to. We've had Rick Nolan over from Boston Harbor Cruises, who's done a great job for us, analyzing the boat and making recommendations to us on how to address a couple of issues that still remain, and that we will be addressing them and over the next few weeks. And so we should have no problem, launching that ferry sometime in March, as we planned. That's now. Now we're moving on to another phase of looking at the customer service piece of the ferry, making sure we have all the tickets and the information and the marketing materials and the supplies and the, all of the things necessary to really run a transportation business. So it's taken a lot of bandwidth of my staff, but we're really starting to put some finite plans together now, and we'll be coming out with a report to the council on a number of those issues, so you're aware of them.
President? Oh, just a question. In the plans were for the fall to run the boat to get an idea about things. Is that going to be done during the spring, where we're going to get an idea
Yes.
of the cost of everything?
We still have that contract. That'll move and shift into the spring.
Okay.
We got our certificate from the Coast Guard a few weeks ago, but we didn't feel comfortable booting up,
Sure.
as they say, given the weather and given the some of the finer points of what we're trying to tease out. When you take a new boat, there's a lot with it that has to be fine-tuned. And one of the issues was, we wanted to get the steering right, we wanted to get changing the oil right, we want to get, a number of mechanical issues that we want to just get perfect and have SOPs written up, because you'll have a variety of people working off this boat, and you want to do it the right way with everybody you've got. So we're developing those SOPs so that people, whoever touches this boat, follows strict guidelines as to what to do and how to touch this boat. It's very important that we do that. So we're in the process of developing those right now, and doing training sessions with new recruits for crew and captain. We've got a full complement signed on at this point. We hired an additional, on my agenda, we've hired an additional harbor master to help with coordinating this. Larry Powers has come on board to. I guess it wasn't enough for Larry to stay on the sidelines. He wanted to get back involved in the town. I'm happy about that.
Good.
And
That's great.
happy to have Larry and his leadership there. So he'll be a great, a great asset for us.
Councilor Campbell?
Would, are there going to be any additional stops added on the route this year
It's
at all?
interesting you should mention that, because we have been approached already, and we're not even in the water. And we have been approached by a number of organizations. Well, it's funny, because everyone knows, and what we learned, one of the big things we learned when we did our pilot studies is that you need to get your sweet spot of the size of boat right, to how much you're going to push through the water, what your marginal cost is for your vessel. You can have a bigger boat, but that boat costs a lot of money to push through the water. So we have a boat that's particularly sort of inner harbor designed. And it's designed that way from an efficiency standpoint, labor efficiency standpoint, and fuel efficiency standpoint. So, it may suit and be very much suitable for other stops along the way. Rick Nolan has already suggested that we consider picking up the Rose Wharf to JFK Library route that is being unfilled at the moment. And that might provide a way for us to discuss with state folks and the MBTA, looking for additional support for the ferry if we do something like that.
What size is the boat seat-wise?
Seat-wise, 72 passenger vessel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're exploring a lot of ideas right now, and I know everyone wants that to be dependable, reliable service from Winthrop to Boston's waterfront. That you got to get right, and then beyond that, we're going to explore some other ideas. Certainly in the summer, we had great success with the Harbor Islands route. So we'll certainly add that in, but yes, there may be some other considerations as well. And that really completes my report for tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the town manager?
Just a comment?
Tom?
Excellent choice bringing Larry aboard. I think that was an amazing score for the town. I think his skill and his skill set is just what we needed.
Agreed.
Good, thank you. Okay, the next item is the update on the school department. I can tell you, I attended the meeting last Monday, and it was pretty much a meeting where a lot of business things got done and decided. Of interest, I think, where the town clerk had asked the school department for permission to use the high school for voting, and that was approved by the school committee. There were some things that came up about different activities that the students were involved in, some all-night things going on through CASA, some couple of groups traveling overnight to various sports events. We had a discussion about MCAS versus PARC, and I think I mentioned that at the last meeting that we had here, and there was a lot of back and forth about whether it was, which test should be the appropriate one, and it was decided that the school system would proceed with PARC. So this March, April, PARC will be replacing MCAS in the elementary schools. I think it's the elementary schools, 3 to 8, I think. So,
yeah, grades 5, 8, and 10 will still use, well, 10 will use MCAS totally, and grades 5 and 8 will use it for science.
Yep. So that was decided. There were no votes taken on that, but the vote had been taken at a previous meeting. So that's my update from the school. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot one item that was presented to me tonight, and I wanted to have the police chief mention it if he could. Can you have these passed around? This is a letter that the chief is sending out to legal gun owners, really as a way to, I know gun ownership has been discussed quite, nationally and quite often, locally as well. And I think that both the chief and I attended a very interesting workshop with the mayor of Boston and others in law enforcement to discuss a multitude of issues with respect to gun ownership. And I'd ask the chief to discuss briefly and to provide some public information on this letter.
This comes on the heels of our summit, which we attended in November. So we came back and we circulated a letter from throughout the region. The city of Boston started the letter. He's asked the entire region to participate in this and sending this to every legal gun owner. And it all is a reminder of their legal obligations to secure their firearms in their residence, to make sure they have gun locks available to them. If they need a gun lock, we have some limited supply at the police station. We'd be happy to give them one. Another 500 is being sent to us. So we'll have additional coming next month. So we're there to help them secure their weapon. The significance of this is 35% of the shootings in Boston come from stolen or mislaid firearms in Massachusetts. So people who break into houses or who don't secure the firearms in their cars or in transit someplace else, and these items get taken, they're used in the city of Boston at a rate of 35% of all their violence. So if we could help them reduce that by reminding gun owners that when they transfer guns, they have an obligation to go on to the DC Just database and tell them about that transfer, so we can track guns and track ownership of guns. There's no infringement upon the right to carry or bear arms, but it's a reminder under the current laws, the legal gun owner's obligation here in this community. We anticipate full cooperation. We appreciate it. And if we can help Boston and other major cities reduce their gun violence, it's only going to benefit us here locally, because the people who have those firearms do transit across these lines, and they do come into Winthrop. We've had search warrants written in the past month for 2 homes locally for illegal firearms that we've seized out of their homes. So we do find them here. We do, cooperate. And again, today we saw in Maverick Station what happened there. The person jumped in the cabin and ended up in Revere and still on the loose at this time. as a result of 2 other people being shot on that Blue Line train. So just as a reminder, that's what we're aiming for, is to reduce legal guns from getting in the wrong hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, under old business, there are a number of motions that will come out of the Finance Committee. Most of them we discussed in public hearing, but Councilor Del Vento, do you want to read those motions?
Sure. Motion coming out of Finance Committee, move that the town council fund the additional water main work for contract 4 in the vicinity of New Middle High School project by transferring from Fund 967 Water Enterprise Capital Improvement $75,000 and from 902 Water Enterprise Retained Earnings $175,000 for a total of $250,000 to Water Enterprise Fund line 902525800028, contract 4, or take any other action relative thereto.
And that's coming out of committee, so it does not require a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
A motion that Finance Committee moves that the town council vote to transfer $250,000 from Fund 964 Capital Stabilization to the General Fund Special Article to fund the town's matching grant contribution for the Belle Isle Marine Ecology Park, or take any other action relative thereto.
All of these come out of committee, so there'll be no requirement for second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Unanimous.
Mr. President, I just thought of I'm going to go to the town manager on this. These are coming out of capital stabilization. Do we need a two-thirds vote, or does a majority, or does unanimous vote constitute?
No, you're absolutely right. It's a 6-vote rule.
Do you need a roll call vote?
Sorry?
Do you need a roll call for all of them?
You know what? I would say so, to have a roll call vote, just to be careful on that one. Yes.
Yes, you
I
do. You
think
need a
we
roll
do it on all
call
of
for it.
these.
Is the salt truck down?
On each one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the
Anything
ones
coming out of
coming out of the
stabilization.
stabilization fund, yeah.
Which is the,
So, have you,
The water one's okay. The 250 for the ecology park, we need a voice vote on.
a roll call vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll back up. And
Motion to reconsider.
Yeah.
The 250,000 Belle Isle Marine Ecology Park vote we just took.
Second that motion.
Okay. We'll take a roll call.
Call for the vote.
Council Ingman? Aye. Council Calla?
Yes.
Council Sanford?
Yes.
Council Boncory?
yes.
Council Barone?
Yes.
Council Boyajin?
Yes.
Council Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
And on this 250,000 match for Belle Isle Ecology.
That was just.
That was fine.
Yeah.
That was fine.
Yeah.
And we don't need the first one.
The first one is for the water main work
Yeah.
under
Yeah, we're gonna need
contract.
them all. We
need
didn't
to
vote.
reconsider that.
No.
We're gonna need one on every one of these.
Stabilization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need, should we do the water one also, just for good measure?
That's coming out of retained earnings.
Okay.
So it doesn't need.
Well, it came out, 75 came out of Water Enterprise Capital.
Say that again?
75,000 came out of the Water Enterprise
In that
account.
motion? It's
Yeah.
combined? Okay, then take the roll call vote then.
Okay.
Motion to reconsider and have a voice vote on the transfer of $250,000 to the Water Enterprise Fund.
I'll second that.
Take the roll call.
Council Ingman?
Yes.
Council Calla?
Yes.
Council Sanford?
Yes.
Council Boncory?
Yes.
Council Barone?
Yes.
Council Boyajin?
Yes.
Council Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes. Okay. The next one on, which is the DPW.
Yep. From the Finance Committee, move that the town council vote to transfer $150,000 from Fund 964 Capital Stabilization to the General Fund Special Article to fund the purchase of a new DPW salter truck. I'll take any other action relative thereto.
And that's coming out of.
Requires a voice vote.
that requires roll call.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford? Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
The next item, transfer $40,000 transfer for the DPW utility truck.
Move that the town council vote to transfer $40,000 from Fund 964 capital stabilization to the general fund special article to fund the purchase of a new DPW utility truck or take any other action relative thereto.
Requiring no second, we'll take the roll call.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
The next motion is to transfer $36,000 for the purchase of the new police cruiser.
Move that the town council vote to transfer $36,000 from Fund 964 capital stabilization to the general fund special article to fund the purchase of a new police cruiser or take any other action relative thereto.
No second is required, we'll take the roll call.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
The next one is a transfer of $47,000?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
$100.
I'm gonna read the 36 and do an amendment. Coming from committee, move that the town council vote to transfer $36,000 from Fund 964 capital stabilization to the general fund special article to fund the school capital maintenance program. And we'd like to amend, the finance committee would like to amend the motion to read, substitute the dollar value of $36,000 to $47,175.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
All those in favor?
You'll have to do the roll call on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
On the
the
amendment.
amendment.
Was it amended in committee?
Yep.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
So now we'll
The main motion.
take a vote on the main motion as amended.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
I just have one question. Can someone explain why it went up?
We got the, Mr. President,
Yes.
the superintendent informed us today at our meeting that we actually have a hard cost. We have the proposal now in hand for the work, and it's $47,175.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous on the main motion.
Okay. The next motion is to transfer $35,000 for the purchase of a new DPW sidewalk Bobcat vehicle.
Mr. There's going to be some substitute language in this that is not, it came from committee, so it doesn't require an amendment. Move that the town council vote to transfer $35,000 from Fund 964 capital stabilization to the general fund special article to fund the purchase of a new DPW sidewalk Bobcat / steer skid loader. That came from committee, so we'll have to make it.
The second required, but 2/3. Roll call vote, please.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
The next is, the next is a $25,000 funding for the feasibility study for a new firehouse.
From Finance Committee, move that the town council vote to transfer $25,000 from Fund 964 capital stabilization to the general fund special article to fund the feasibility study for siting a new firehouse or take any other action relative thereto.
Coming out of committee, no second required. Roll call.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
The next one is transfer of $25,000 for the fund, the town record scanning project.
Move that the town council vote to transfer $25,000 from Fund 932, General Stabilization, to continue funding the Special Article 0196025-588074 FY15 Town Record Scanning, or take any other action relative thereto.
No second required. I think that
Do we need a
requires,
roll call on that?
we need a roll call, general
Yes.
stabilization.
General stabilization, yes.
The roll call, please.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes. We're almost there. Getting there. The next one is a transfer of $25,000. It's a match for the fiscal year 13 Green Infrastructure Grant for Coughlin Park feasibility study.
From Finance Committee, move the Town Council vote to transfer $25,000 from Special Article 0196052-588021 FY14 Landing Riprap Seawall to a new general fund special article for the purpose of fund the town's grant match for the FY16 Green Infrastructure for Coastal Resilience Grant, Coughlin Park feasibility study, or take any other action relative thereto.
No second is required. No roll call on this.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. It's unanimous. The next one is a transfer of $20,000 to fund the town's tree planting program.
Motion from Finance that the Town Council vote to transfer $20,000 from Fund 932 General Stabilization to the General Fund Special Article to fund the town's tree planting program, or take any other action relative thereto.
Council President?
Yes.
I'd like to
Councilor
move
Barone.
to amend that motion to read transfer $24,000 to the tree planting program.
Is there a second?
Second that, no?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I would like to say that I think that's something simple that we could do to help beautify the town and enhance the appearance of every property by putting as many trees as we can into the community.
And just a further point or question, how many trees does that give us with the additional 4,000? Approximately.
An additional how much?
4,000.
4,000?
It's about $250 per tree.
Okay.
16 trees.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, just curiosity.
Thompson?
How many do we usually use the whole 20 and plant the 80 trees a year?
This will be the first year that I'm getting the 20, but yeah, we try to plant 75 a year, 75 trees, so it's right there.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? I think we need to vote
Yes.
on the amendment.
On the amendment first, right?
Yeah.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yep.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous on the amendment.
Now, on the motion, you need a roll call vote as well.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous on the main motion.
One more motion, and that is to transfer $20,000 for the feasibility study for the Inner Harbor dredging.
From the Finance Committee, move that the Town Council vote to transfer $20,000 from Fund 964 Capital Stabilization to the General Fund Special Article to fund the feasibility study Inner Harbor dredging. Or take any other action relative thereto.
Comes out of committee, requires a 2/3 vote, so we'll need a roll call.
Counsel Engman?
Yes.
Counsel Cala?
Yes.
Counsel Sanford?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Barone?
Yes.
Counsel Boyajin?
Yes.
Counsel Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, that's it for those. Now on to new business. The first item of new business is a transfer request from Town Council Reserve to contracted services for maintenance and properties taken into receivership.
Motion to refer to finance.
Thanks.
Motion to refer to finance. There's
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The second piece of new business is to transfer $12,000 from Town Council Reserve to a special article for police training.
Motion to refer to finance?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. The next one is to transfer from Town Council Reserve to contracted services for legal fees associated with foreclosure proceedings. Is there a motion to refer that?
Motion to finance?
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's passed.
Mr.
Unanimous.
President, none of those are any urgency for the,
Just the receiverships, it's extremely low, so that process will slow down. So just to keep that in mind as you're scheduling.
So this will come up at the next council meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilor.
none of these require advertising, but I asked the clerk if possible to have a 6 o'clock meeting scheduled. on-
Prior to the next one?
Yeah.
February.
Thank you.
The next item under new business is to transfer $11,687.07 from the Building Maintenance Stabilization Fund to repairs for the heating unit at the senior center.
Motion to refer to finance?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Unanimous. As I mentioned earlier, this next one is to vote to change the polling locations from precinct 1 and 2 and 5 to the high school gymnasium. Have a motion?
Motion.
We don't need to refer that, I don't think, or do we?
No?
No.
Nope, so you can take a vote. Councilor Sanford, second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Could you just fill us in on this?
Fill us in.
The reasons, just to let everyone know the reasons behind everything.
I believe it's because of by having these, there were a number of elections this year, and by having them in the school, it almost forces the school to be shut down if they're in the coming school. And so the request is really based on is trying to avoid that happening. By having that in the gymnasium, the school can continue without any interruptions. So that's the rationale behind it.
I just wanted people to hear that. Thank you very
Good,
much.
thanks. I'm glad I remembered.
Back to where they were.
I've gone there before and nobody's there. Okay, thank you, Counselor. So did we vote on that? No. So let's, there's a motion on that, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, great. The next piece of new business is a motion by Council Bayajian to create a town council appointed economic development and citizens advisory committee. Any discussion or a motion on that? Make a motion?
motion to.
Could you explain?
Well, for purposes of discussion,
Oh, okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded. Yeah, Council Bayajian?
Yeah, so this was in the idea of kind of what the Citizens Advisory Committee is kind of, I guess, more of an independent view of kind of what with finance and looking at things outside of the town's view, just looking at the economic development would look at, there are a lot of people in this town that are very qualified to look at, what are the financial impacts of things, and give us kind of an independent look at, separate from kind of, the problem I think I worry about is that, when we start creating the projects and things, and you tend to be biased towards what might be getting created, and getting an outside opinion about where things, what things are going on, what's the impact, is it economically feasible, and getting another opinion independent of everything else that's going on, I think is prudent, because there are cases where, just from, again, trying to educate myself enough, but there are cases where what was thought would be great development in towns and cities where large developments actually brought in less revenue than what prior existing things were, or factoring in what's the long-term maintenance on a building that if we decide to keep something, but looking at people that have a lot of experience, and there are people in the town that we could go to, and I think could be an asset to again have an eye that's independent outside of kind of our view, that are experts, and could advise maybe even the finance, the economic development subcommittee as well. I think the more opinions, because this is something that if we do this wrong, it impacts the town for more than just our decision as us as councilors now. It's a long-lasting thing that is difficult to pull out of, and I think we should use every available resource to give an independent view of what's going on. That's really where I'm coming from, and a lot of other towns have done things like this to do that. And it's really to bring up a discussion of it. I think I think it's warranted though, and I put in a little bit more detail here, but.
Council Groves?
As a further discussion on this, there's no reference as to the makeup or the number involved. So I would move to refer this to the Economic Development Committee to take a closer look at.
I'll second that.
And possibly expound upon the idea.
Yeah.
Councilor Sanford?
I'm not opposed to the idea. I think we might be putting the cart in front of the horse. There's many different redevelopment authorities that are created. I think going forward, now that we have at least a $50,000 grant, we can kind of put together some kind of a plan and then start, as Council Boyajian saying, bringing people in that are assets here in the community, as well as Center Business District, people who are neighbors, so on and so forth. It's a lot of expertise. I just want to make sure when we finally make that decision as a council that we plug in the proper people and we can make it happen as quickly as possible. But input and public input will be first and foremost.
Councilor Cavan?
That's what I was going to say. I'm quite sure. I mean, at all the meetings, they're all public meetings, and they certainly do want to get as much, participation as possible. So, people should keep an eye out, and they should attend the meetings and voice their opinions on a lot of things.
Councilor Boncory?
Just under this discussion, I agree, it should go to the Economic Development Committee, but if they come back with something, we have to make a change to the rules to start a committee.
Yeah, it's
It's a town council committee. Our Citizen Finance Committee was set up under the charter, so,
Yep.
we're not going to make a charter change to do this.
Right.
So something should be presented to make a rule change from economic development if they're going to go forward on it.
Can I get?
Councilor Ingram?
Councilor Ingram?
Oh, I'll just add, I think the town manager and his staff have done an excellent job getting this project going, and I'm really excited about everything that the opportunities that we're looking at. I tend to agree that having an advisory committee would really be beneficial for the town. We have a number of people, I know that we have a number of people in the community that have large-scale mixed-use real estate development experience, and I think it would be wise to solicit their expert opinion early on in the process. Sometimes even asking the right questions requires a certain amount of technical expertise, and I think we should tap into that.
Councilor Boyajian?
No, and while I agree, I think that we do need all the involvement from the entire community. My concern is that this would be separate from, as the chamber and the public and whatnot, of really tapping into expertise versus having everybody's opinion. Because one thing I do worry about with soliciting the public opinion with a large general scope is if, we're presenting like what... You want to present things that are feasible and realistic to be able to be developed, and I think that I don't think it's putting the cart ahead of the horse. I think it's actually prudent to create it before we need it, and and get it involved early on in the process of getting a few people with expertise, as Councilman said about large-scale developments that are outside, that aren't developers within this community, and aren't part of the chamber where they have other avenues to do this at. I'm looking at as an independent view of the reality of the situation, and another, again, independent of those entities.
Move to economic development.
Move to economic. I'll just say, too, I think this might also be a good reason to bring to the next meeting
Yes.
the presentation that we heard the other night at the Economic Development Committee, because some of the things that you brought up were discussed in some ways at that meeting, and I think it would be really good to hear that from folks.
So, and just to play, I guess, to say this a little bit more is, I don't see the downside of having other people separate that are independent of the current process going on to look at this, even though it's been well vetted and there's been a lot of thought put into this. Making these large decisions, I do think that, again, people with a lot of experience within this community that could be tapped to look at this independent and look at even what was presented Wednesday night in the PowerPoint and all of that, and again, give an expert opinion on what, you know, of what we should be doing, what we should be asking, and again, and not being reactive, but being proactive about it. I would strongly urge that to be considered.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I just think there is merit to this, and that's why I would like to refer it to the Economic Development Committee. There's great merit to this.
So there's a motion to refer to economic development. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, unanimous.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. All right, the last item of new business is the bed and breakfast and transient lodging special permit draft referred to the Winthrop Planning Board. I think that people have seen that. We should refer that, should we take a motion to refer that to rules and ordinances?
We received it back?
It's been changed.
Yeah, there's been amendments to it.
Yeah.
There have been amendments from,
Yeah.
the planning board made some amendments, and
Right.
so we should review those amendments via the rules and ordinances.
Right.
So we need a motion to
Motion
refer.
to refer to rules and ordinances.
Second? Councilor Sanford, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, unanimous. Okay, that is everything under new business. Is the second public comment period in the meeting? Is there any, just stand and
Yeah,
say your
Ken
name?
Goodwin,
and-
Precinct 2. We sent an email out to the entire council as well as the Mr. McKenna and the CFO in regard to this transient housing ordinance. I was just wondering if you've all received it.
What time
And
did you
read it.
send it?
Last night, 10
Last night.
p.m. We have copies of it. I'd be more than happy to
I did
read it
not.
to you if, because since that last motion, you're going to be referring it back to the ordinance committee as far as what the planning board, we've been going to these meetings regularly as far as the planning board and having our input heard, which has been very, very important to us. I could either read the email to you, or if you haven't read it already, I think it's important to note a few things that
I did not receive the email. When did you send
I
it?
got it.
I sent it at 10:12 last night.
To the council as a whole?
To the town council and to the town manager and to the new, our CFO, Mr. Perez as well.
I did not receive
I can forward to
I'm not
everybody
su-
else if they want it.
I'm not sure that.
I'm not sure it went to everyone. I got
it.
it
Must
here
have
in
gone
front
to
of me.
specific people.
but- Yeah.
Okay,
But anyway,
No, it was.
continue.
I think.
but anyway, we're hoping that when it comes down to your vote, if it goes back to the ordinance committee, that you make a couple of amendments to a couple of proposals from the planning board, and that we think would be key to have a serious look at, because the ordinance that is being proposed, the transient housing ordinance, which we prefer to call it, home sharing, is a small piece of the overall picture of what's going to be probably ultimately going to come back to Winthrop if the state cannot pass legislation on this issue.
I just sent it again.
So if the ultimate objective is to find a balance between keeping the integrity of Winthrop as well as promoting tourism in this ordinance of this proposed transit housing draft, then I propose that a couple amendments be changed in section 10J and 11K. But if you don't have the draft in front of you that was drafted up last week from the planning board, does the council have the planning board's?
We have that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we would recommend that, or we would suggest to the council that they would omit the word solely dedicated bathroom into that for number one. Councilor Varone was there last week, and he might, I mean, those were the two things that we had an issue
Yes,
with.
yes, it
Was
was.
that, and then another thing we found was the mic. It says no appliance shall be in a room, and we suggested that a microwave would be allowed if you would omit appliance or include a microwave, because as I stated in the email that Jez and I, but we've tapped into something that's been extraordinary the last several years, and it's actually exceeded our own expectation by allowing people into our home, and it's trickled down to the local businesses, and we've been able to maintain the integrity of Winthrop in our neighborhood. And so ultimately, it's important that when this ordinance gets passed by the council or voted on, that you look at every piece of it, because it will ultimately get voted on in Beacon Hill, and it's going to reflect the state and the country and Winthrop. So I'm just asking that the council consider every piece of language in this that's going to be beneficial for Winthrop and for the town, and that it's going to have a lasting effect. And so that's what I would just ask the council to consider that. And one of the things was both the microwave. We've referred many people in our home to businesses, to Mr. Lettieri, Belle Isles, Meatball, you name it, they want to heat up their food. It's a matter of convenience, so I'd ask anybody who's ever stayed in a Sheraton or a Comfort Inn or whatever, it's not an uncommon practice to have a microwave in your room. And it's not an uncommon practice to have a shared bathroom in these old houses in New England, especially Provincetown and the Gunquit or anywhere else. So, again, that's what I would, to the council. It's all in the email that I sent you.
Yeah.
So maybe you could forward it. If not,
So we,
I have
yeah,
that.
Council
maybe
Brown
we
just
can,
forwarded.
Give me another copy of
oh, I
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
I know you've attended every
Oh,
meeting
yeah,
I've
when
had.
we forward it, because I mean, we're pretty, those are the two hot topics, it seems like in the state right now. I believe it's gonna be Airbnb or the home sharing, not necessarily. The planning board, it seems like they were using transient housing because it just fits under this umbrella of complexities, but it's really what brought this to the forefront in the center stage of this issue is the company Airbnb with a $32 billion valuation. That's what brought this entire subject to the forefront of towns and cities across America. We're putting it under transient housing, but the thing that brought this forward was Airbnb. So it's important that we're good, if you're good at what you do, it's gonna trickle down to complementing the town and us. When we consider ourselves ambassadors to Winthrop for what we're doing. So, and that's what we want to continue to do, and that's what we want to continue to promote. We're not in favor of flop houses and crash pads for crews and illegal apartments. We're not in favor of any of that, and I think the council would agree. So it's important that we strike a balance with the language in here. So I just ask that the council please review the proposed language from the planning board. And those are a couple of things that we would ask that you just review and tweak before you make a vote on it.
Thank you. Good, we can do that.
Can I just piggyback again?
Sure.
Long before the financial issue came ahead of this, myself and the fire chief were talking to the manager about the safety issues. And the major concern on home sharing are safety issues. Lodging houses are required to keep a logbook. And that's for a purpose where we have a tracking system for crimes. And in case something happened in the neighborhood, we know the fire happened. We know how many people were in that house. So I just use caution. I'm speaking for the fire chief, and I'll consult with him in the morning. Appliances. I don't think he would have a problem with adding microwave. I think he would have a problem with taking out appliances because we're concerned with those burners. The one burners and also toaster ovens.
Yes.
So, those are appliances. So I just ask to, try to strike the balance. A lot of people in my neighborhood run houses that run beautifully, no problems, and we don't want to take away from those people, but we do want a system in place that protects the guests as well as the homeowners and public safety officials. Thank you.
Right, so it's important to have that language in place.
Can we set up a rules and ordinance meeting for Monday the 1st, February 1st at 6?
Hang on a
Nick, is that
sec.
okay with you? Paul?
Hey, give me a second. Let me get my calendar out. Monday the 1st at 6:30?
6:31, okay. That's fine. Can we notice that?
Yes, yep.
Let me, I'm going to just also, I was remiss in not reading something the planning board had sent to us. I think I introduced this topic in a confusing way because this whole thing is about responding to the planning board's recommended changes, and there's a little note that they wanted us to read. I'm going to just read it right now. It just says, the Winthrop Planning Board appreciates the opportunity to review and comment on the draft transient housing ordinance prepared by the Council's Rules and Ordinances Committee. After extensive policy consideration and discussions with community, the board offers the enclosed comments in the form of a revised ordinance for consideration by the Rules and Ordinances Committee. The issue is a challenging one, but the board believes it is best addressed by inclusion within the existing B&B ordinance, which is intended to address concerns of a similar nature. So I just want to put that in the record.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jez Magarinos, Precinct 2. I'm also on that email list as well. And I was also at the meetings with Councillor Varone. I just want to reiterate that we do think that the word appliances should stay in there. And I think what they were talking about, as you said, were hot plates and ovens and open flames. And we don't think microwaves actually encompass that. They're not as a health and safety hazard. So that was that point there. And the other point that we wanted to make, that I'm not sure whether we made clear with the planning board, was the shared bathroom. One of the councillors in particular was saying that she wasn't happy with the fact that she would share a bathroom. And we don't think that that's particularly disgusting, is the word she used. We think that would be a normal thing that most people do, is share bathrooms. So we would want to strike that or change that wording to be a little more inclusive of other houses in Winthrop.
So it would be the determination of the person that you had staying with you to make that determination whether they wanted a shared bathroom or they want to stay at the Hilton for down the street. So it's up to the person to make that determination or not.
I think the original one we sent left in a shared bathroom.
Yeah.
It's come back now
Yeah,
without the shared
and that was
bathroom.
her sole
So-
opinion. She was
Yeah.
basically the spearheaded this draft on the planning board.
Good. Okay, so we already moved this to committee. Do we make a motion to move it to
Yes.
committee?
We already have a meeting.
Then we have a meeting?
Yeah.
All set. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none. Under public relations, there is an MMA trade show this weekend, Friday and Saturday. I know a number of councilors will be attending. Town manager McKenna will be there. So that's something going on.
Barring the snowstorm.
Barring a snowstorm. At least we'll get there Friday, hopefully.
Friday.
We may have to stay over. I don't know.
There are some.
But that is it. Where the council is going. Are there any other comments or questions? I'm sorry.
We should have rules and ordinance meeting here.
She's gonna have to set it up.
Yeah.
You can try to get it here,
I'm gonna
but
try to get it here, yep.
What day? First.
February
February
1st,
6:30.
Monday, February 1st, 6:30.
6:30, right?
Okay, good. The council is going into executive session. The council anticipates going into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to negotiation and deployment of security personnel. Discussion of these matters in an open meeting could have detrimental effect on the negotiations and deployment of security personnel. The council plans to return to open session for adjournment only. So,
You need a motion.
Motion.
roll call?
Motion to go into executive session.
Okay, so make a motion. A second? All those in favor?
We have to do roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry. I'll get it.
We got it.
Council Hayman?
Yes.
Council Calla?
Yes.
Council Sanford?
Yes.
Council Boncory?
Yes.
Council Barone?
Maybe.
Council
No, yes.
Boyajin?
Yes.
Council Del Vento?
Okay.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Driscoll?
Yes.
Executive session?
I make a motion to have a 5-minute recess.
Recess.
Now we-
Motion to recess.